We'll discuss this situation more with the Director of Center of Economic and Law Studies, or Celious, Mas Bhima Yudhistira. Good morning, Mas Bhima.
Morning, Mas Bhima.
Good morning, everyone. Good morning. Thanks for having me back.
As always, it is a pleasure to have you in our morning show right here, and we're going to go delve into our discussion for today. So, of course, as we stated before, there are some economic and also investment opportunities that Indonesia can achieve from this summit. Can you please elaborate on that, Mas Bhima?
Yes, of course. First, if we talk about the small medium enterprise development, they need more investment from the foreign. They need more collaboration with the counterparts abroad, especially if we see small medium enterprise in Indonesia is huge number, 64 million units, but the contribution to the export is very limited. It's just below 14% in the last 2 years. So G20 meeting, I think it's very important to bring more members and also observant countries to have a collaboration to export more SME product from Indonesia, because SME is our strong main points.
Right.
That's why Mr. President Jokowi will bring SME as a main agenda to fasten the pre-economy during the pandemic situation.
Right. So, as mentioned before, G20 is comprised of both developed and developing countries. However, there are those that believe that G20 is still considered to benefit mostly the elites. So, what can the government do in 2022 to help pass on these benefits to, as you mentioned, small or medium enterprises, even micro enterprises or MSMEs?
Yeah, if we see back in Turkey around 2015, that G20 summit, the main agenda is how to bring developing countries' agenda as important as a developed countries' agenda. So they will put the financial institution to help SME, to help labor absorption, and also how to SME catch up with the green economy, with the circular economy. I think that's in line with government policy and also interests of the Indonesian economics, because if we want to have a faster recovery, stronger and solid recovery, so the main point is how to get the SME on the table, how to get the SME challenges or what the SME needs for the government policy. Is it subsidized? Is it like lowering tariff for the export?
Yeah.
Or other fiscal policies? I think that's important that the other developed countries also have the same perspective to helping Indonesia SME.
Well, I mean, the Pandora box is already open, Mas Bhima and Paul. It seems that the doors are opening right now for MSMEs right here in Indonesia. So what should they prepare for this G20 summit?
I think first, the G20 summits, of course, this is like elite meetings and like ministerial meetings. It's more in the financial recovery in the last 30 years since G20 active to involving many roundtable discussion. But we assume that when the government of Indonesia reach deals with the US to export more SME products, textile, craft, and economic creative products to US. So the challenge will be, the first is the quality product that the SME export, and the second is standard or even non-tariff barriers, we call it. So developed countries need higher standard product. They need an eco-friendly product, standardized organic product for food and beverage. That's how the SME can develop their standardization so they can cope with the G20 output agreement, for instance. And the third one is, of course, this one is related to the human resources. Lack of the human resources, as we see in Indonesian SME, is also a bit of a burden and challenge for SME to increase their competitiveness. So human resources, I think, is important things that when the G20 set the meeting, hopefully there will be like institutional building, capacity building also for the SME workers and SME business owner.
Right. So a lot of these issues that are always discussed at G20 seem to be priorities, quote unquote, but there are some that believe that some of these priorities will just keep going from one year to the next without being handled properly. For example, I'll give you an example. Climate change always seems to be on top of everyone's mind, on the top of every discussion. But it seems that a lot of those that are criticizing G20 believe that it's just a topic of discussion and it's merely ceremonial. So how can these priorities be realized as opposed to just being ceremonial?
I think what Indonesia did last in 2001, I think is very, very in line with the general agenda of the G20 meeting in Rome in 2021 also. Because at the time, the world leaders talking about how to change to the green economy, how to transition from the fuel civilization, let's say, to the more renewable energy. So therefore, Indonesian government set up the carbon tax incentives. So this carbon tax incentive, I think, need to be implemented, and this need to be shown to the world that Indonesia is strongly committed to reduce the carbon emission, the correct policy. Even though we will see the roadmap of the carbon tax will coming soon, yeah. But this is a good progress from the Indonesian government that perhaps the other countries in G20 which didn't have carbon tax will follow Indonesia as a leader of the green economic transitions. Yeah. I think that's how the G20 meeting is not just about talking and then just a ceremonial photography, but also put it on the concrete policy agenda.
That's true, and as well, we're seeing a lot of incentives for electric vehicles and tax incentives and things of that sort as well.
Correct.
So yeah.
So agendas and point of discussion, I think, is already made and set. Now we're talking about the challenges and also the preparedness, Mas Bhima, of hosting the G20 summit in Bali. So how do you think it's coming along right now?
So I've been talking with several ministerial departments. And then they're all preparing for the Sherpa meeting, the side meeting, and also the main meeting of the G20 until October 2022 this year. So they will have a lot of a conversation, a lot of a table discussion involving international organizations, participants from the member observant countries, and also in the ministerial level, we will see more concrete policy planning that will be bring to the main agenda of the G20. So every institution in the government, central bank also preparing a lot of event to celebrate the G20 presidency. I think this is important also for the local. This is not only Jakarta or central government meeting or agenda, but how the local leaders, Bupati, Gubernur in every region will also contribute in the G20 meeting. What is the idea? What is the best practice in the local level? Can the other countries see Indonesia also giving something, or Indonesia even learning something from the other G20 member? I think that's the progress right now.
Right. So yeah, we certainly have an idea of it. I remember late last year with the BWF tournaments being held in Bali as well. It kind of gave us an idea how ready Bali is to handle such an international event. Obviously, this one will be bigger and arguably more important, but I think that is a good baseline for us to start off with. Now, if we look back at last June, Mas Bhima, at the G20 summit, a lot of the topics of discussion and the issues that were handled were more sectoral. And how do we basically have a summit that can prioritize and optimize international relations? Because it is a world summit. It is a gathering of world leaders from different countries of various nations. How can we make this more of an international gathering as opposed to just kind of every country prioritizing its own needs?
Of course, if we look at the current event about the escalation between Russia and Ukraine and the US, so the geopolitical tension also impacting a lot of things. Indonesia cannot grow strong and solid, especially during the pandemic recovery, if there is still a war going out there. So if we want to put back in context international politics and international economics, so we must bring all the G20 member countries, including Russia, US, and European countries, how to de-escalate or let's say stabilize the region We want more peace, we want more stabilized, so the price of the oil will not hurting developing countries because many poor countries also suffering from high inflation. So that's the logic behind G20. We bring international peace, we bring international development into previously there is a setback of the G20 during Donald Trump presidency, which is more inward looking,
Right.
more like a protectionism. So that also need to be recovered after Donald Trump resigned from the president in the US.
Good point.
There's a lot of baggage needs to be undone, and of course, one of it is the publication of the World Economic Forum, where it shows the unequal of fiscal stimulus are between members of the Group of 20. Now, with that, can the stimulus determine how fast can the economic recovery happen here, Mas Bhima?
Yeah, there is two challenges actually raised by the Federal Reserve Bank of America. The first one is a high inflation. Why the high inflation? Because some countries still fixing the stocks of the raw materials. They still hold some of the raw material developing countries needed. So they need more cooperate and need more stimulus. How to cooperate the stimulus, so increasing the productivity, also making the supply chain more safely connected to the developing countries. And the second challenge, I think, is how the policy during the recovery is impacting the sectorals and also GDP output in developing countries, especially member of the G20. So the stimulus package is still needed. Stimulus for the SME is still needed.
Yeah.
So there will be no austerity, or there will be no like a full rollover in these years. If the government pull over all the stimulus, perhaps it will be endanger the economic recovery. So that's why the G20 raised new stimulus is needed, and how to evaluate the past stimulus so we make a better and stronger recovery.
Right. Still several months to go before we actually realize that the G20 summit will take place in Bali, but we certainly are looking forward to it. Thank you, Ms. Bhima, for your time and your insight in regards to this, and we hope that the situation continues to improve until we actually until the G20 takes place.
Yes.
Can't wait for it.
Always a pleasure, Mas Bhima. Thank you so much. We'll see you soon.